Good afternoon. Are we waiting on anyone, Angela? All right. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. I first want to start by offering my condolences to LaTanya Jameson, and she's the mother of Amari Cryer. And regardless of the circumstances, she is a mother, and this was her child. On Friday, May 20th, at approximately 8 a.m. in the 800 block of Sutcliffe Avenue, the U.S. Marshals Task Force, of which LMPD is a member, was attempting to serve an arrest warrant on Mr. Amari Cryer. It's a felony. It was a felony arrest warrant issued by the Commonwealth of Kentucky and dated May 16th, 2022. The warrant was domestic violence in nature, and the charges included assault for domestic violence, strangulation, and terroristic threats. The Marshals Task Force had tracked Mr. Cryer to a residence, and as the officers approached, he fled from an apartment. There was a brief foot pursuit. They ran upon a fence. Subsequently, the marshals opened fire, striking Mr. Cryer. Mr. Cryer was in possession of a handgun at the time he was shot. Post-incident, the marshals asked LMPD to investigate, so our public integrity unit is investigating the shooting. There's been a significant amount of erroneous information flying around, which I understand, and my goal here is to ensure that everyone has a clear understanding to the best as possible of what occurred. The arrest warrant was valid. The arrest warrant was valid, but while we were on scene, we did have to secure a second arrest warrant to search the premises. The shooting was on private property. And so there's been talk that the warrant was not secured until post-incident. That's incorrect. There was a second warrant that we had to get that would allow us on the private property to process the scene. Our public integrity unit will gather the necessary information from the investigation, and we will submit it to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office to make a determination on whether or not any charges are due to be filed. I would anticipate that any body-worn camera footage would be released in the near future once essential interviews have been conducted. I will take any questions at this point that y'all may have. Thank you. That's been a common question that we're hearing is why were the U.S. Marshals involved? So we are in a number of partnerships with federal agencies, and the U.S. Marshals are one of those agencies that we partner with us. They work with us to serve high-risk felony warrants. It's no different than the ATF is embedded with us. We make a number of gun cases that go to the Commonwealth. So I understand there's been some questions of why would we be with a federal partner if we're not serving a federal arrest warrant? The partnerships are designed to strengthen communities, make communities safer. We could not function without the ATF and what they're doing to help us around gun violence. And if you think of it, the majority of the arrests that we're making in partnership with them are state related. So it's the nature of these partnerships.
You mentioned there was a foot pursuit and he had a possession of a weapon. Is there any indication that you've had yet that he was reaching for the weapon or pointing it at officers, or is he still trying to flee with the shot?
I'm going to refrain from elaborating greater detail, and the reason for that is we still have not gotten critical statements that we need to get from involved parties, and it's really important to me to really limit the level of detail, which is why, again, we're holding off on the body worn camera at this time. We've got to get these statements locked in first.
Chief, how many times and where was this fire shot?
So once again, this will be forthcoming in the investigation, but the coroner's report, the full coroner's report has not been released yet, but that will absolutely answer those questions.
How many LAPD officers are on the task force and what are their names?
Yes, so I don't, offhand, there's several on the task force. Certainly the names of any officers involved in the shooting would be released, yes.
Do we know how many law enforcement agencies or people were involved in that pursuit and how many fired gunshots?
I don't know the number of agencies that were part of that particular task force. And my understanding, belief at this time is that the only agency to have discharged their weapon was the U.S. Marshals.
Is there any connection to that apartment that you said Pryor was running from when he was shot?
So what I will say is the entire case file that the Marshals Task Force put together that would have led them to that apartment will be released when the investigation is completed, and so you will be able to see what led them to that apartment, yes.
Chief, as far as we talk about warrants with LAPD and what happened with Breonna Taylor and how that's all signed off. Is there anything different with how the marshals go about it, about obtaining and getting the warrant cleared?
So again, this is an arrest warrant, and it's would have been secured by our agency through the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So it's not a search warrant, it's an arrest warrant. So really, they're just helping us with the apprehension of individuals who we know are wanted on felony charges.
So the warrant in nature is secured by LAPD.
Yes, thank you.
Just given the intense level of interest from the community, do you have any estimate on when you'll be able to release some more of the details from this investigation that the community is concerned about?
I think we're trying to move this along as quickly as we can without compromising the integrity or the value of the investigation. So I know the guys are working around the clock. So sooner than later, certainly. But the most important thing is that that we don't compromise the quality of the investigation. We have to be able to submit to the Commonwealth a good work product.
And there are some conflicting eyewitness reports. Do you know when the body was removed from that dump?
So allow me to say I understand that the concern. I, for one, have real discomfort when a body is not removed promptly. The flip side of that is if a body is removed too promptly, what I can say to you is then the investigation was not thorough. It's imperative that we allow time for the necessary measurements to be taken, photographs to be had. So I think that it's always that fine balance of ensuring, I mean, it's horrible for the family, but you don't want to expedite things to the point that you miss critical evidence.
Does the LAPD have an MOU in relation to handling the shooting investigation?
So we have MOUs with our federal partners on what we will do together as a partnership. As far as the handling of the shootings, it's typically, I believe, it varies by region. So, and they've reached out to us to do their investigation, but that generally, I believe, varies by region.
Can you give any more information about the other person who was arrested at the scene?
I don't have the details on that. I'm sorry.
And I know, oh, sorry, sorry. I know when LAPD has shootings, PSP investigates. Do you know why U.S. Marshals want you all to investigate if you all weren't assisting? Why not ask an entity that wasn't there?
And that's a fair question, and I honestly don't know. I know they reached out to us to ask us to do it.
How quickly does that exchange happen between shots fired and LAPD taking over the investigation?
I think that these things are infrequent enough that it often tends to slow down the process. When I look back on Friday. I don't feel our communication at the front end was what it needed to be to the public. And that was because people were trying to figure out, was the U.S. Marshals Public Affairs going to handle, were we going to handle, who was going to handle the investigation? So the process tends to not typically go as smoothly as one would like because it's so infrequent, which is the upside. So you really are trying to establish it real time.
Do you know if he was living at that residence on Sutcliffe, or if he was just?
I don't know.
And just for clarification, do you know if Pryor ever actually pointed his gun at all or fired any?
I do not know. I do not know. And I really need to refrain from speculating just so that we can get these statements from involved parties and witnesses locked in first. Thank you. Good. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it.